Now then, people, welcome back to the Just Joe football show, and I guess you could call it a Conor and Joe show regen. The return of, the return of. Sion Williams says, I hope Joe says good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all doing fantastically well. That's not my thing. Sometimes it does fall into and come out of my mouth, and then I'm like, shit.
I'll always like occasionally just be like, now then, now I won't say that. I say now then people, but I say now then everyone. It's like a collab, like a mashup.
I love that. Listen, it's great to be able to do this. To be fair, I can't lie. It's something that probably we should have done a long time, but as people know, me and Conor don't always agree, and can always send sort of. Indirectly send shots without indirectly sending shots. It is what it is. But I do think that the Twitter, maybe YouTube, I've made it a lot worse than what it probably is. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think so anyway. But listen, yeah, Conor and Joe show no more, but Counterpoint. That's what we set with. I like it. It's a very American game showy. I think looking at bringing the audience from the States. But Conor, first and foremost, mate, before we discuss today's topics and whatnot, we're gonna do this regularly on a Monday, alternate between both shows, aren't we? And yeah, you excited to do? I think you called it a new series on Twitter. You excited for the new series?
Yeah, I'm buzzing, mate. I mean, we've said this for ages, haven't we? We've said it. We've not been able to do it because we've both got like busy schedules and all that. And we've mentioned, doing something together, but we didn't know what it was. We didn't know how it'd look. But we had a chat the other day, didn't we, for around about 3 hours.
3 hour chat, yeah.
About 3 hours, and we've put together some short-term plans, but long-term plans. I think it's criminal that we haven't done anything really in this space, and hopefully, mate, we'll get those long-term plans sorted, and it'd be helped, wouldn't it, if we're in the Premier League?
100%. Well, we still might, mate. We still might, and that's the first topic we're going to talk about. Leeds playoff chances. I'm not confident, Conor, which is mad. It's like a role reversal in a sense, because normally I'm like, we can do it. But I'm just not confident. Just because of Leeds' history in the playoffs, first and foremost. We never do well. Secondly, there's been an almighty sort of collapse in terms of performance, be that individually, decisions from the manager. Yeah, I don't. Where's your head with regards to the playoffs? Just on the face of it, before we go into the nitty gritty stuff.
I don't know what they're going to say, Joe, because if I come on with any sort of slither of positive,
they'll say you're doing it for effect.
Roles reversed, unbelievable.
Yeah. He's trying to get my audience, man. He's lying to you.
Come over. But yeah, mate. I think I'll be honest. In 18-19, I think we had we're having like chats and discussion and stuff, and like off air, and because people think that me and Joe don't chat and we hate each other, which is completely bizarre. We do chat and we don't hate each other. So I think we're having chat back then.
Not all the time. Not all the time.
But we're having chat, and 18-19, mate, I wasn't confident. It was a similar ending to it, wasn't it? And then you saw Villa coming in. Grealish, Abraham, Hurahan, McGinn, and I was thinking, this is a bit of a problem. It was interesting that season as well, because we'd beaten them on earlier on, hadn't we? And they'd not beaten us that season, but they had a bit of a run, and I think they'd gone like 10 unbeaten going into the playoffs. This season, I do look at it and I think to myself, well, we've got arguably, I'd say the second best team in the league. Arguably the second best team. I still think Leicester have got the best team in the league and have the best team in the league. But I do wonder if that's going to give us a bit of an advantage. It should do going into the playoffs, but I'm way more confident than I have been before, which is weird. But I'm now looking at it, Joe, and I'm a bit similar to you, mate, where it's like, I'm just psychologically, I'm like my dad's been raging. You probably saw with the podcast stuff. He's really frustrated. My brother's been frustrated. My family members have been frustrated, mates and stuff. The Southampton game was a bit of a weird one for me, because I was a bit like, well, yeah. I thought it would go similar to that, but I expected maybe a little bit more performance-wise. But overall, mate, going into the playoffs, I'm a little bit like, caliber-wise, we should be winning the thing. But mentality-wise, I'm massively struggling with this team at the minute. They're struggling, aren't they? This is the ultimate Leeds United bottle. It really is. I cannot believe what's happened post-international break. What is it, 8 points? It's been nothing short of staggering, really, mate. So calibre squad-wise, I'm thinking, yeah, we best team there, you know, but then I'm looking at it. And another thing, Joe, I looked at that Southampton game the other day and I thought, if we played them at Wembley, bigger pitch, them keeping hold of the ball like they were the other day, getting us into traps, I'm thinking, oh dear. I don't know about you, mate, but
no, yeah. I mean, what do you? I think collapse is a fair enough way to put it, because that's what's happened since the international break. Like, what do you put that down to? Because you mentioned mentality there, and locks. Everyone's. Well, he was everyone's favourite Leicester fan when they were doing shit. Now he's just doing everyone's tits in, including my own lock. So you need to pack it in, bro. But he mentioned about Leicester sort of being mentality monsters and Leeds United being mentality midgets. And I've used that since, because it does feel to me, mate, the lack of experience in the squad, when it's mattered for the players, they haven't been able to pull through. And that is my biggest worry, because you're bang on in terms of quality of squad. You would argue is probably the best of the four that are in there. But mentality-wise, because of the lack of experience, when we've needed to come up front, be that Somerville, be it Rutter, whoever it might be, you could even argue the manager, we've got it all wrong. We have all got it wrong.
Yeah, we have. I kind of want to put it to you as well, mate, as well with regards to experience. You mentioned midweek about Luongo and Morsey at Ipswich, and it did my head in a little bit. That I don't know why he did it, don't know why he said it, but I get where he was coming from experience wise. But I don't know if you've seen any of what I've put out, mate. But you know my feelings on Luke Ayling. I didn't think. I thought at that moment in time.
Do you wish he'd have stayed now? Do you wish he'd have stayed?
Well, mate, now you look at it, and do you know what? You look at it and you think, is it if you've got the gaffer talking about experience? Why would you let him go? Why would you let him go initially? Because he's in that squad alongside Cooper and Dallas. Like, I might have thought technically he's not good enough. I don't think he'll ever make a resurgence for Leeds. But I tell you what, mate, when you look at Byram's recent performances and just Byram in general in this second half of the year, you look at him in comparison to Luke Ayling and Luke Ayling's performances, which I've even been shocked with, to be honest with you, I have to say. I'm not saying I'd have Luke back, but maybe that January decision of him wasn't the right one technically and experience-wise, if Farke's been speaking about that. But I think the youth it's huge, but I'd still rather have our midfield and our depth than Ipswich's. All day. I don't know about you, but I'd be honest.
Listen, I said this on my press conference reaction as well. I do think in the lead up to that last game, that there were quite a few excuses, and I've said that myself, and I do back the manager, and we're going to talk about Farke, but I do think in that moment it did feel a little bit like when he mentioned our turnaround of games, and then I'm looking at Ipswich who had to play 3 in 7 days, and then that's when I bring it back to their mentality thing of like when it mattered for them, they show up. Had we have beaten QPR, it'd have been in our hands on the final day. Had we not dropped the ball against Sunderland and QPR, we'd have gone up. There's all these different things where we have had an opportunity to, and that's why I do put it down to the mentality. But I do hear you in terms of, they've got Morsey and Luongo. Yeah, listen, with hindsight, it's an easy thing. I always backed Luke sometimes when he was poor, because I have an emotional attachment to players. I'm aware I'm emotionally charged with individuals within the squad. I don't hide from that fact. Passion merchant, if you like. But it was almost a little bit sweet to see him do well, I think, because not yourself, but some told me he were League One. Some told me he won't get in, and you see what he's done. I think turn of the year, assist-wise, he's been flying. But yeah, we probably could have done with someone like that. The point is, and I said this before, in terms of experience within our squad, the only experience we've got is Dallas, who's been out for the season, Cooper, who can't get on the pitch, and Daniel Farke, who can't really do what once he's given. Outside of that, we have no championship experience, really, Conor, at all.
So why do you think then, if he's talking about that now, with the position we were in, top 3, top 4 in January, Why would you not go out and do something in January then if we've not got enough experience?
I think and Andrea and Lockie, we have a group chat and they've been saying a few things. I think that's where we dropped the ball. I got battered on social media I don't know if you did the same, but for suggesting Kiefer Moore. Kiefer Moore would have got us over the line, Connor. I genuinely feel he'd have got us over the line. Just that one player would have got us over the line. I think David Brooks, another one. Came on, and every time he came on and was used, I just looked at him and thought, even Sarmiento, who I loved at West Brom, and Ipswich went, we'll be able to give him more game time, Brighton. Okay, you have him. You know what I mean? So
I said that as well, mate. I said at that point, if you look at the transfer window, Ipswich had a better transfer window than Leeds, but Leeds, none of them would fit in. None of them with what we had at that moment in time. In my opinion, it's all right to look at it right now and say, "Oh,
yeah, easy, yeah,
about all of them." But probably aside from Kiefer Moore, like you said, you look at Ali Hamidi. You look at Sarmiento. Mate, you look at Lewis Travis, who's Blackburn's captain in central midfield. All these players that they were bringing in, you're thinking, well, how many of them get into the Leeds United squad, really? But I mean, the starting 11. But yeah, it is. It was. I thought Roberts. Listen, when we lost Spence, my thoughts on that. But then Moore came out afterwards, and you're thinking, oh, actually, maybe. But then Roberts coming in, I thought was a quality signing.
Yeah.
Really good signing. But we haven't seen enough of him, have we? We've never seen him. So it feels very much. It feels very much like one of those signings that we've brought in before. I can't think of one of the ones that never played. I mean, Eddie it's played every now and again in Ketia, but I feel we've done it before, haven't we? In Jan, we've brought players in and they haven't really featured.
Yeah, I think Look, it's easy now with hindsight. I don't want to make this like, I'm saying, because I backed Farke, I backed the transfer business and all that. But when you come to the end of the season, you have to ask yourself the question, what went wrong? This is when you start to analyse it. I do think in the transfer window, both in the summer you can sort of write off because of all the outgoings and that. But to not get a specialist number 10 was criminal now when you look at it. To not bring in some experience was not great. Roberts wasn't enough, you know what I mean? I think that's where we've let ourselves down, really. Them little bit, because if you think to him, he tried to get Kenny McLean, for example, and when we played Norwich, I was like, well, I can see why, because he bossed it, but he's that experienced player, 30-odd, whatever he is, that, whenever I watch West Brom, mate, I love Jed Wallace. He's packs of experience. I look at these that we don't have any of them, and this is why I've always said West Brom will do well in the playoffs, because their team is jam-packed with just championship experience from the back at Kyle Bartley, Mower, all of them. So, yeah, I think that's where Jason Lee mentions Pritchard, who went from Sunderland to Birmingham. Again, he could have been one who could play in that role. Set pieces with him as well. Yeah, phenomenal. Yeah, so I think that's where we dropped the ball. But Norwich, mate, we've got Norwich on Sunday. It's a quick turnaround. I did what I was doing yesterday. I don't know what but I was away. I sort of cleaned my head. But now it's like, right, Monday, game face, let's go. We've got a game on Sunday. Do you make any changes for that? Because let's talk about some individuals. Who would come out? Like, I feel like I have to pass the baton over to you and let you grill me on Meslier, because that's one that I've had to fall on my sword. I think it's only fair. You talk to me about Meslier.
Yeah. Ilan Meslier. I absolutely love when you stick by a player, because nothing changes. It doesn't matter. You will stick by that player. Joe would be a good mate to have. He'll stick by his Meslier, mate. I think me and you have had sort of disagreements about. I'm not sure where he's developed at all, to be honest. I still think he looks like a deer in the headlights. I keep getting told he's really, really young, but he's probably played more games now than most experienced championship goalkeepers, to be honest, mate. I'll be brutally honest. I think he's very average. I think me and you have had chats before about when we came down. If someone had said, "Look, Sam Johnston's available," hypothetically, if you'd have taken him at the start, of course we would. Of course you would have done. I think the issue with him at the minute, mate, is he's got no competition. Carl Darlow's what is Carl Darlow like? Brownie's played with him, and he was saying, he's almost lucky to be a footballer. So it's one of those things really where I don't really see any pressure on him. I mean, what was the last pressure he felt? What, Kiko Casilla, which is a long time ago. So yeah, I think I would personally be looking at moving him on, but I understand. I don't think the club will do that. But I think Leeds can get a good duo for a decent price, mate. You know, we're a massive club, we're a big attraction. We nearly or have got promotion, you know, by the end of the month. I think it's time to move Elan on, to be honest with you. He fills me with no confidence, mate. I think his save percentage is on his arse as well. I think it's in the bottom 6 goalkeepers in the division. Clean sheets, decent. No, don't get me wrong, but I'd say that was more of a collective than Elan Mele. But he's done okay this season, but I think, you know, you've got a team in front of you that, and obviously Mele has contributed to this, but a team in front of you that for 2/3 of the season have been mesmeric, and the ball stayed away from him for a lot of it. I think, I think he's still struggling with the same problems we've seen with him, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, I think, again, for me, Meslier, I think a lot of it could well be mentality as well. Like the way that he deals with his crosses in moments. For example, look, when Big Sam came in, he took him out. Look, when it's mattered this season, especially in the business end, since the turn of the international break, nearly every shot is going in, and it almost feels like when it's mattered, he's dropped the ball a bit. And when he first came in, we all remember the Arsenal game, and when he was hitting balls left and right at the Emirates, and I was like, oh my God, this guy. And then he played in the Championship while Kiko had his ban, and I guess the pressure was off. No one was expecting anything of him. But then again, when that pressure switched, he has sort of, you know, wilted, and he's flapping, bro. He's flapping.
You would say that you think it's when it's sort of Leeds are in the ascendancy, when it's comfortable for Leeds, you think he's at his best. But when
the
pressure gets to him, I can see it.
Yeah, I think that's where I would go with it. But I do, as much as it pains me to say it, I do think a replacement's needed. I mean, I spoke to Matt, who he's New York Talk, Rotherham fan, and Steve Evans is on record of saying 6 or 7 clubs at the top end of the Championship have already inquired about Victor Johansson. So you would hope that we're in that bracket. You know, there's even talk of, I think Matt mentioned 2 Premier League clubs. I think he mentioned Palace and another, but he wouldn't be number 1. And he wants to get in the Sweden squad, so he wants to be number 1 somewhere. So it makes sense for Johansson to go be a number 1 at the top end of the league. Would he be someone you'd be all over? Because he'd be pretty cheap as well, I think.
Yeah, but do you know what my dad said, though? My dad said, he goes, yeah, but he's just been relegated, Connor. And I went, yeah, I know, Dad, but there's context to be applied. If he's been their best player this season, if he's levels ahead of anyone else, if you look at the team in front of him, then, do you know what I like about him, Joe? A lot of the time, he's a big talker. I think that's what I like about him. He's commanding. He's as I said, he's sort of in the defensive phase. You saw that at Ellen Road, and between the sticks, mate, I think his handling's very good. His distribution, he's not asked a lot of his distribution, to be honest, at Rotherham.
No, that's the thing, innit?
But mate, you know those long balls, you still got to be accurate with those long balls. Yeah. You still got to hit the big man with those long balls. I think with Elan, I mean, back two, he's unbelievable at passing it 10 yards. But when it goes to 20, 30, 40 yards, I do worry about him. And I completely agree with you, Joe. It's not so much counterpoint with this particular point. No. But he is. I think it's a good point. I think it's that pressure aspect, and that pressure aspect, you can't have a goalkeeper in net who's struggling to deal with it. It's the weight of that badge, mate. The weight of that badge is a problem for some players. Yeah,
no, I think that's right. And there's a lot of people, both supporters or those that have not backed him for a while. I think it's fair. I think we can all sort of come to an assessment now that maybe, you know, we may look to replace him in the summer. Yeah, I think that's something we'll do. While we're talking about replacements, mate, let's talk about Farke and Farke's future. I know this is where we have a difference of opinion. I mean, let me ask you outright. Are you Farke out?
No.
Where do you stand on it?
I have problems with him, as you know, and probably all your followers will know. I do have problems with him, but I think continuity is very underrated in the game, and I think the absolute you-know-what show it was last season with Grazia, Allardyce, Marsh. I think there's a lot with that when it comes to player development and it affecting them. I think Farke didn't get up with his first time at Norwich. I think that has to be said. You know, when he first came in, they struggled when they had Oliveira and Madison was still there and co like that. And listen, it's going to be a second season thing for me. I think you're on the same wavelength for me. I think the only stipulation is, Joe, with him is, and I don't know if you agree with this or your followers agree with this as well, I'd give him a short leash. I think next season, if it's sort of end of October and we're not where we need to be, I would look at it just so you can make that change early on. The only outlier I see here is if a top championship coach becomes available, lower Premier League capability.
Who would that be though, bro? Like,
yeah, I know. It's, I mean, a name that's bandied around a hell of a lot, and he's not done it at Premier League level, but coach wise is always, who it's Corberan, and he's always someone I've been on the fence with, to be honest. Corberan, coaching wise, apparently he's top level. He's done really well in his career so far. I think he's sort of ready for that next step. But Daniel Farke has won the championship twice. So where do you see them in terms of capability? Is Corberan really going to take at least that next level? And does he really fit in that bracket of a very, very good coach becoming available? I don't think there will be a very, very good coach that will become available at this level. So I would stick with Farke for continuity. A full pre-season he'll get as well, depending on wherever we go, which he's not had this season. Turbulence is not going to happen on the same scale as it was this year with 15 going out. But it's interesting because you do wonder what they're thinking at the top if we completely blow out of these playoffs. But from what I told you the other day, they're pretty happy with him. So definitely Farke in. But next season, I'd keep a little bit of a tight leash on when we'd maybe have a change. What about you?
I think I was the same in terms of like Premier League. I said that, as much as I backed him this season, as much as I love the guy, I did say that, knowing his history in the Premier League, he gets 10 or 15 games, and if we're languishing at the bottom, then you have to let him go, regardless of how I have to try to take sentiment out of it. But I do agree with you. If we had a poor start, because I still think that the poor start had a major bearing on where we ended up as well. I know everyone now, it seems, on social media is finding arguments to the contrary of, oh, well, these had a poor start and they did well, and I get all that. But, I think had Leeds United started well, we'd be in a different position. But there has to be context applied to that, like you said, in terms of all the upheaval and stuff. This season, or going into next season, if we don't go up, everything's going to be right for him. We'll know that Somerville's going to leave. We'll know Nonto's going to leave. Okay, there might be discussions over others, but they're your definites. And then it's like, right, okay, you've now had a full season. You know what's lacking from this squad. I would argue most people do. I do, and I'm sat here in a room. I know experience is lacking. I know, a number 9. You would argue, unless you give Joseph a run, fullbacks are lacking. Maybe you could look at the goalkeeper. Goals from elsewhere on the pitch, from outside. As good as Rutter is, Buendia scored goals, Todd Cantwell scored goals, these sort of players, So we need players of that ilk, so he should have no excuses. Can I ask you a question, though? Because I get battered for this. I got battered for this, actually, on when we got beat by Saints at the weekend. I just wanted to get your opinion on it. And be honest with me, batter me if you want. I actually think, next season, if we stay in the Championship and we lose Somerville and we lose Nonto, I actually think, and maybe this is just copium, mate, but I actually think the squad next season will be better equipped, have better balance going into next season than this. Okay, it might not have as good as individual quality as a Somerville, as a Nonto, but as a squad, I think it could be better and more equipped. I don't know what you think. I mean, obviously, we don't know who we're going to bring in yet, but if he gets the right people in, the right positions, then the squad as a whole will be better. Because I think the bench is pretty gash, mate, in all honesty.
Yeah, I think Brownie said something similar, to be fair, in terms of the bench. The bench, I don't know. Is it just because what we've seen this season, the bench is just being like suddenly, I'm not sure it's good enough. Not sure it's good enough. Maybe it's I've said to you before, like I I think one of Farke's biggest criticisms is his utilisation of subs. I absolutely love Jadon Anthony. I can't get around it. I just think as a footballer, he's very, very technical. But where does he get in? But then there's arguments. Well, Somerville's been off it for a while now. Well, then you've got a very, very capable lad who's played 4 Premier League games at the start of the season. So why don't we just utilise him a little bit more? Joseph, I think Farke's bottled it when it's come to Joseph many times. I don't understand why there wasn't a bit of continuity after that Chelsea performance, which was unbelievable from him, in my opinion. I know we've said this loads of times, but with what you've said, so I don't know with the bench. I mean, Gelhardt's another one, mate, and people, but Gelhardt, look what he did at Sunderland. Look what he did. He's not been great for Leeds, but I think at points as a footballer, he's been criminally undervalued in terms of that number 10 role, George. You're just in him behind a number 9 where he's going to get your shots off. He's good with close control. Left foot, right foot, he's decent. And I think at points this season, he'd have been a lot more effective than a Perot. So the bench, yeah, I think a lot of it has been because fans have maybe looked at the lack of game time and have thought, Premier League, it's not good enough, but Championship, I don't know if you could, I mean, how many more benches are as good as that? So I think that's going to be weakened big time. It depends what they do, doesn't it, Joe? I mean, would you be saying the same thing if, let's say, worst case scenario, they got rid of Gray, Nonso, Somerville, and Rutter went? Would you be saying the same thing? Or for me, because I'd agree with you to let maybe 1 or 2 go.
Yeah.
But then the second question to that is, Joe, do you think he'd be able to manage without that superstar Somerville and that superstar Rutter? Because it feels like this season, a lot of it, everything really, has gone through those two. And if we haven't gone through those two, there's been no other build-up players. There's been no other option. It's been those two or bust.
I do think, listen, I'm banking on just Somerville and Nonto going. I think if you were to then say that they were followed by Rutter and Gray, then of course maybe maybe I am wrong. Yes, as Vic says, that's a lot of money in the bank. Agreed, 120 million. You're looking at a lot. By all accounts, we want 40 for Somerville, Nonto, let's say 30. Then Gray will go for a lot of money. So there is a lot of money there, but I don't think the 49ers will want to lose major bodies and have to do major work.
Yeah.
I think it'll be 1 in, 1 out kind of vibe. Do you think?
I agree. I think we're going to see something like 2 out and then 2 or 3 in. I think that's how we're going to look at it this year, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think they'll want to do a lot. Who would you be looking at? Like, because obviously the mad thing is you can't just wave a magic wand, because we'd have all said Pirro, not just us. Southampton, Leicester, Ipswich, whoever would have all said Tek Pirro. Yep. He's not gone to a Prem club. He's there, and look how poor he's been, mate. Really poor. And I do think it's more a case of stylistically. I think if he'd have gone somewhere else, he'd have probably worked. But it feels to me we waited for Archer. Archer went to Sheffield United, and then we went, we'll just get Pirro then instead. And it's just
who'd have been perfect, by the way, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. This is the thing. Do you think there's a case of being able to entice them out of Sheffield United? Archer, Gus Hamer?
I don't know. I mean, if they come down, they're going to be the favourites, aren't they? To be honest, mate, that's another conversation. Championship-wise, is it arguably going to be harder next season as well? Because
I don't think it is, bro.
Do you not think?
Nah.
Why?
But you know me. Why? I just think Sheffield United and Luton are shit. Is that really bad? Is that naive of me to say? I got called arrogant, to be fair, once we dropped the ball against Southampton. Everyone was saying you're arrogant, you think Leeds will beat anyone and all that, and I'm like, sorry for being positive, that's just how I am. But
it's difficult, that Premier League performance. Robin Frost has just put there in the chat, Sargent 16 goals in on the 26 games this season. He's bang on. Like Josh Sargent now literally looks like a different player, mate. And at Premier League, you're looking at him, and I was like, oh my God, look at this guy. He's embarrassing, but he's been unbelievable this season. And as he turned it around, it's the same thing with like managers in it and all this sort of stuff. I think if Leeds are to go about it next season, do you know what I'd do, Joe? I'd literally pick for the first time, can we just do this? If we stay down, even if we stay up, if we go up, just pick the cream of the crop of the Championship. Because a lot of them, you've seen them transition into the Premier League. You know, your Eberiche Eze's. They bought Warburton this year, didn't they, from Blackburn, who's been unbelievable for him in that central midfield. Palace seem to do it a lot. They got Elise as well, didn't they, from Reading, I think it was. just pick the cream of the crop, because the cream of the crop in the Championship can be good enough. Like, I think Hamer's a Premier League player, 100%. And it's like, you know, obviously we saw Gyökeres, didn't we, go to Lisbon, and he's torn it up this season. I just love us to actually go about it that way.
Sammy Schmodics.
Yeah. I do like that Archer shout though. I think Archer. I love Cameron Archer. I think he's a right player. Just quick in it. He's explosive. I think that's everything we miss with Rutter. I think, I don't know about you, but I think they signed Rutter because the manager's got to have a say, and he's not a Timu Pukki. He's not someone who can play up front by himself. We called him a number 9 when he first came in. How can you sign him for 12 to 16 million quid as a number 9, which they were advertising him as at the start, when he's just not a number 9? He's never a number 9 in a month of Sundays. So I think they've done that because of all the players that have gone out, mate. And I think they needed to make a statement in the summer, really. I think they needed to calm fans down a bit and get us excited. But I don't see how that works under Farke, do you? I don't see how that ever works.
Listen, there's people that know the game much more than me, and I want to give props to Andrea, and I think you were saying it as well, mate, on some videos. You know, Andrea and Lockie said right from the jump that this guy is not suited to our system. He will not work. And, you know, in the early parts of the season, he's scoring goals, although it didn't look amazing, but you forgive it because you're scoring goals. But
can I just say as well, mate, Ben in the chat, latte lat.
Would you take him, yeah?
Tell you what, mate. Yeah. Wouldn't say no. What, he looked at the Championship Drogba. I like him a lot, mate. I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah, it's been a real surprise. I know, Andrea, because I didn't realise he was playing in Italy's Serie B and wasn't really doing well. But obviously, he's come to the Championship, and maybe that change of leagues massively helped him. But just on that striker position, I think surely, with the full pre-season, our main number 9's Mateo Joseph, do you think?
I thought you were going to say something else there.
No, Bamford. Were you going to lose your head? Don't get me started on Pat.
I thought you were going to go with a full pre-season, a bit of confidence. It's got to be Pat Bamford. Oh, not again.
No, why do you hate Pat, man?
8-year running.
I think people would die if he started again. I'm sorry.
I'm surprised, but he just seems to be a cat with 40 lives, doesn't he? Like, he's just there every single year. But yeah, mate, I mean, they've got it. I tell you what, if you're Leeds United and Mateo Joseph wise, you've got to sell him that project. You've got to sell him the project. He'll be thinking 16 clubs are in for him in the summer. He's got to be thinking to himself, well, if you're doing what you've done with me this season, bringing me on for 4 or 5 minutes, you've seen what I've done when I've been playing. I've done it for my country as well, but I ain't doing that. No way. And they've got to be careful, I think, with him. Because do you remember, Joe, for many years, we've said it with loads of, like, I guess Leif Davis is the primary one, isn't it? Where we've all thought, well, all right, well, if he wants to play, he can go somewhere else. And it's like, oh, well.
I think with Leif, though, I think it was the right move at the time. We were Premier League. They were in League One. But I didn't foresee him doing this well, if I'm honest. But, man, I think on Joseph, I listened to Leeds that, and Rocco was on there, and he made a fantastic point. He says, Mateo Joseph must be fuming because, you know, he came on against Chelsea, he scored 2 goals. He goes away with England under 21s, scores goals. He's then de factoed over to Spain, scores goals. So I get it. And those, you know, I will always back the manager because I rate Daniel Farke, and I feel that at the time, the experience, etc. The one annoyance I did have was when he played Pirro at the weekend, because we'd seen how poor that was at QPR. I'm like, you've now got to throw him in. You've got to change it because we've got 2 playoffs coming up. Let's see how he does. And Joseph could have every reason to be frustrated, but if he is going to stay, then they have to go and make him the number 9 next season. Surely they have to. He has to.
Mate, 100%. But I, if you've got an experienced body in Bamford, then it feels like he's really influential. Bamford, I think some of the players have said it on the Leeds United interviews and stuff like that. I just don't know what happens with him. I don't know what you do with him. If you're making Joseph the lead number 9, then what is Pat Bamford? Obviously, he's probably one of the highest earners of the squad. You know, he's an experienced guy. Does he just bench him with Perot? I just don't know if Farke does that. I just don't know if he does it.
Can you sell him, though, bro? Like, everyone goes, sell him. That's always the thing. Sell him.
Yeah.
But sometimes I have to take a step back and be like, right, okay, but first and foremost, who's buying Pat? Who's paying his wages? Do you know what I mean? You have to take all these things into consideration, and he's still on a decent contract. He's still got a few years yet. So,
yeah,
But hear me out when I say I want to see Joseph get a run in the 9. I definitely want to see that.
Yeah, I was just having a look there. I mean, this can't be right. It just says his weekly wage is 70 grand a week. But that's rubbish. It can't be 70 grand a week. If it's 70 grand a week, I'm going to find the nearest bridge.
No, it was, bro, when we were in the Premier League, yeah.
So he must be, because I think they slashed it, didn't they? Was it like 60% or like?
I'm not sure. He will have had some sort of...
That's a lot of money in it. If it's 30, like 35, 40 even, it's a lot of money. So I don't know, mate. I think my opinion was, I think when Pat was scoring in January, this is why it's really, really difficult, because when they're scoring, when they're almost keeping, like I just spoke about Ilan Melier as well, the clean sheets, sell him, stock's high, sell him. I don't know how much higher his stock's ever going to be than that, in terms of him just keeping as many clean sheets as he has, getting the Golden Glove in the Championship. I was saying in January, I know he was doing well, Pat, but sell him. At that point, I've no idea who's going to come in and do something, but potentially he's on the market, potentially stick him on the market. And then you're looking at a January scenario where he's doing really well. His stock will be high. Clubs will be looking at him and thinking, all right, Pat Bamford can still do it in the Championship. And that's where my mind was at. I think I worry a little bit when it comes to fans who say, I will sell him now, just when he's been in a bad streak of form or he's had like an awful end to the season, because clubs are just going to look at that as well and just go, well, no, he's not. Why would we buy him now? He's awful. His confidence is down. He's not scoring goals, or he's not keeping clean sheets. It's really hard to separate that, I think. But when players' stocks are high, that's why, in my opinion, you've got to look at moving them on, because it's a little bit of a purple patch for them. And I do think agents aren't and clubs aren't as complex as we think.
Do you think there's anything in the Pat Bamford missing the last game of the season for the last 3 seasons on a row? You think that's a bit wild?
Yeah. Did you forget about his like? Because I completely forgot about in videos. It just came into more like Joseph ahead of Bamford in terms of their ability on the pitch. But I did completely forget about his injury status, really. I thought, it's been all right recently. But then back into the season, I thought, oh, okay. Is dependability and reliability almost like the biggest attribute to a striker? Yeah. It's like the biggest thing, isn't it? It's like the biggest thing. They have to be available to score goals, and he's not available enough, is he? But for me, mate, they've got to invest in Joseph, because I think he'll be off. I think he'll be off, surely.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. I still back Farke. I'm not going to rewrite history and say it was right to play him from January onwards, and we look better with Pat in the side and all this sort of stuff. I genuinely, I'm not gonna rewrite history on that thing, but always with a view to, right, next season he has to play. Or let's say Pat can't get ready for the playoffs. I don't care that Pirro scored against Southampton. Largely outside of the first 15 minutes, he was rubbish, and so was everyone else. Let me say that. Yeah. What did you make actually to the comments after the game where Farke had said, we played open, we played risky football because we knew we had to win the game, and obviously we didn't win the game anyway, but I looked at it as just any other normal game. I didn't see that much of a risky strategy. You mentioned there being big gaps in midfield because they were, pressing high, and the defensive midfield wasn't going up with the front men, leaving them big spaces, but I'm not sure I agreed with him in that standpoint. I just thought we were really piss poor, and that has to obviously change going into that Norwich game on Sunday, man.
Yeah, we'll get killed, won't we? He's got the midfield. If he's got, do you think? I don't know if you and your followers think that was I don't know. Was it an excuse? I don't know. It was a bit odd. But why? Yeah. They're going to set traps. They set traps for us at St Mary's. Like, we know how they're going to play. And then you look at Smallbone Joe, who in the game at St Mary's, John scored the exact same goal, and it's like, well, why would you
just ghosted? Ghosted.
Yeah.
From halfway line, past, I think it was Kamara initially, then past Gruev, and everyone's blaming Firpo, but he was just allowed to do this. Firpo wasn't great, by the way, in that moment, giving up the ball.
I don't blame him, though, for that.
No, he just ghosted past 2 midfielders, and it's like, well, what are you doing? Even if he's got past you, at least pass him on. Do you know what I mean? And say, listen, he's coming your way, and I just think, if we're to go into that game on Sunday, mate, what needs to change? How do we set up? Who do we bring in? Who do we drop out? Is it a case of looking at the team in January and saying, right, you do everything you can to get that team back on the pitch, i.e. great right back, Kamara, or do you say, do you know what? It's 3 games. Do we try put Ampadu in midfield and get someone in at centre back, even if it is Cooper? Do we, what would you do, mate?
God, it's a problem with running YouTube channels, isn't it? People see us as managers. If we can't have the, if we don't have the anecdote, we're
I might bass it if that's the case. I might fucking basket playing 4-4-2.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. Everyone wants to. Well, what's the answer? And it's like that's not my job. Who would you bring in as a player? It's like, well, that's not my job. I'm just saying. Yeah, I get you.
Exactly. Yeah. It's one of those where if you.
I got a comment. Sorry to interject. Actually, it's reminded me. I got a comment that rattled me. I can't lie. A big, massive paragraph, and he said at the end, "Happily unsubscribed," and I went, right, next time, less of the waffleog on your bike. But it really got to me, and I messaged it someone. And this person went, Joe, it's like he's giving you an appraisal, like he's your gaffer. I said, you're a fan giving an opinion. And I was like, yeah, you've got a fucking point. The way he'd gone through me as though he was like my director of football and I was the gaffer, you know what I mean? I was like, get in the bin, man. But yeah.
That's it, mate. No, I mean, I've got Rossett08 in the comment section as well. Rossett08, who I'm still living in his head since the Bielsa days, apparently. So there we go. Shout out to you, mate. But yeah, no, I think a lot of the time, mate, it's changes that. I mean, I guess you've got to separate it now mentality wise and think, is this squad right now, the starting 11, is this starting 11 going to win the playoffs? It doesn't look to me like it is. So I feel like we need a bit of an injection of something. You can't take some of. If it was any other game, I'd be taking Rutter out. I think he needs a rest. It's almost like he's playing with this niggle, and he's not fully
still
recovered.
Injured, I think. Mate.
Yeah, he is.
Or it's knocked his confidence or something, you know.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I agree. So I would be taking him out if it was any other game, but it isn't any other game. That midfield, mate, the midfield's the tricky one for me. I would be looking at Joseph. There's no chance I'd be starting Perot again, but we know he's going to start him. I don't know if Pat's going to be back for this one. It looks like it's too soon, but if it's between him and Perot, I'm starting Bamford at 100%. Nonso, I feel potentially could be the X factor in this game, in this game, and potentially the Wembley game. It feels like the pressure's not quite got to him as much as it has maybe others. Somerville obviously starts that midfield. Gruev's getting to me a little bit. I have to say, you probably noticed that on some of my videos. He's sending me a bit wild at the minute, but I think it's because I'm probably used to playing central midfield, and I mean I never played on his level, so I can't really be criticising him. But just some of his play.
Paddy District League's right up there, mate, surely.
Yeah. And the guy at the pub who's like, I could have made it, me, mate. I could have been Zidane. Me. But yeah, no, that midfield's the trickiest one, mate. So what do you, I think you've got to get Ampadu back in there. You've got to get Ampadu back in there.
You know, I love Cooper, but I know that maybe you're on the opposite side. I'm not saying you don't like him as a player, but in terms of ability and that, right?
Yeah.
Would you be willing to risk that to put Ampadu in midfield? I'll put that to you. Because I've mentioned it and everyone goes, no, not Cooper. But I'm like, yeah, but if we need to get him in midfield, that's what you're going to have to do. Because he's not going to play Creswell. He's definitely not. So would you be willing to do that?
You've thrown a different player in there who I was thinking of, to be honest. But
who were you thinking?
It was Cresswell. Yeah,
really?
It was.
Do you think he does that, though?
No, he doesn't. There's no chance he does it. Cooper, playoff semi-finals. Do you want to do that again? We're going down that road.
It'd be some way for him to go out either amazingly or badly. There's no in between, William. It'd either be amazing or bam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Are we better with Ampadu at the back and Gruev in midfield, or would we be better with Cooper at the back and Ampadu in midfield? That's the Cooper just gives me nightmares, mate. But potentially, I mean, Joe's just said there, Joe Blackburn. There's surely a reason Cresswell hasn't played this season. Come on now. Well, I think there's definitely credence to that. I think there's an argument to that, but I just don't think. I mean, why would you play Cresswell when you've got Strauch there? When you've got Rodon there? Ampadu's played there before. He's not. Ampadu is miles ahead of Cresswell with the ball at his feet, but that's not why I'd put Cresswell in. Joe, a lot of it's the fine margins for me. I think a lot of the time you'd get Ampadu just dropping in between Cresswell and Rodon anyway, almost acting as a back three at points. And set pieces, mate, attacking set pieces, but defending them now as well. Charlie Cresswell did so well for Millwall. about a third, 2/3 of the season when he was available. The problem is he's been caught out cold now. So we can talk about him not being used a lot. But with him not being used a lot is another problem because now he's coming in cold. If he'd have been brought on as a substitute in stages, that might have helped him out a little bit. Cooper, who are we up against? So you look at Norwich, probably Josh Sargent.
And what's his favourite? Ashley Barnes.
Barnes, yeah. In all fairness, it's probably a better battle, isn't he? I mean,
he's had a good season, Barnes, to be fair.
Yeah.
So I know he's shit, but he's had a good season, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think the issue's these set pieces, mate, isn't it? That's a big problem. So in answer to your question, I'm just trying to figure out in my head, mate, because to be honest, I don't know, but I would, yeah, mate.
There was one moment, mate, against Southampton where Ampadu had found himself on the halfway line, so in the midfield position, and he just sprayed a ball out to the right-hand side that Nonto got onto, and I went, that's why we need him in midfield.
Yeah.
Because, or it almost feels to me, I don't know how you feel about it, but that Gruev's first game, I know obviously you're not his biggest fan and stuff, and we do gas players up, I'm aware of that fact as a fan base. I think every fan base does. Yeah. But that first game for Gruev, he was spraying balls left, right, and centre. Now he just goes left and right. And I don't know if it's an instruction from Farke to just retain possession. So let's not try something wild. But Ampadu, when he does find himself in midfield, how many times has he got ruttering behind? He sprayed a ball over to Nonto, and I was like, this is why we need him back in midfield for me. Especially if Roberts is going to play, because you can look to him on the overlap, on the underlap. So, I'd like to see him in midfield, but it means changing the back line, which I don't think he will.
It's almost as well. Would you? Excuse me. I was going to sneeze. I didn't then. I was going to say, would you like to go up against Norwich with the exact same team as we had against them? 7 or 8 weeks ago as well? Which I think Bamford was leading the line, wasn't he? I think James is in there as well. But it was that settled back four that we've had: Firpo, Rodon, Ampadu, and Gray. Really, you just saw. I think he's going to revert back to type, to be honest with you. But it absolutely worries the life out of me, mate. He's going to go with
the same lineup if
yeah, I do. Yeah,
if Bamford's not fit, he puts Pirro in as well. Yeah. Just because he scored a goal, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, and look, fans, and we all will, of course, we'll all support him, but fans will back it and have rationale for it because he scored a goal, but they won't look at, as you've just done, as you've rightly said, don't look at the whole performance. The fact that he was, I like to call him peronymous. He was peronymous in the entire game, but he scored a goal. But because he scored a goal, that now means that he had a good game, which I personally, I just, if. When we talk about it tactically, Joe, and we saw it against QPR, we saw it a little bit against Southampton, I think. If they press the back two, they're going to go long, and if they block off the 6, they'll go long. What are we going long to? Unless we stick Rutter up there, mate, and he just comes in as the 10. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
What would you do?
I would start. You've got to start Matteo for me, mate. Yeah, I think. It almost feels as easy as that. I know management isn't as easy as that. And look, when Matteo's actually come on, he came on for half an hour against Southampton. He didn't really do much. Do you know what I mean? But I just think, look, for me, Leeds United start games well. Really, really start games well. Apart from maybe QPR. But I thought we started well 15 minutes against Southampton. We looked the better side. And then we concede and we got fucking shit.
I know.
And it's been, earlier on in the season, we were scoring goals within that. I think we had the most goals in the first 25 minutes across the whole division. That sort of slowed down, but I think there's a point of having someone who can play similarly like Pat. It just helps us massively in terms of getting up the pitch as well. I think just on Pirro, it's almost like he tries to do the Harry Kane thing of dropping so deep to start off play, but then can't get on end of any of the fucking balls. Do you know what I mean? And if you look at his heat map, bro, a lot of it is around the centre circle, and it's like that. I don't need you there. I don't want you there. I need you, up towards the top end.
And Joe, can you ever think of a time as well? We're talking about Harry Kane, just like slipping into that number 10. You'll see Kane, it's a different player, obviously completely different, heights in terms of career and ability.
Yeah, of course,
You see Kane, don't you, putting those lovely through balls in between the centre backs and the left backs and centre back and right back. You see those clip balls over the top. You see him shooting from range. I see Pirro drop, and I'm like, what advantage does that give us whatsoever? Because he'll drop deep, and then we'll just pass it laterally side to side again. He doesn't do anything. He'll just slide the ball out to Somerville, and that'll be it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think his touch is really poor of late as well. Just on Pirro Somerville, And of course, on Twitter. But did you see that clip of Somerville just pieing him on the goal celebration? Everyone's coming out in defence of Somerville saying, "Oh yeah, but he's going back to the halfway line." It's a clear pie for me. I don't know if you've seen that clip.
I've not seen it, mate. No, I've not seen it.
Yeah, so when Pirro scores, he goes towards the corner flag and people celebrate with him, and Somerville just like walks on by, and it almost feels there is a little bit of needle with them since that penalty situation potentially. Do you think that that could be causing problems in the camp as well? Like, I'm gonna try find you the clip, mate. It's hard for you to comment if you haven't seen the bloody clip, but
Yeah.
I don't know. There seems to be a little bit of needle there personally. If anyone can send me that clip, that'd be great because I'll share it on here and get people's thoughts. But bro, how confident are you over Sunday's game? If we lose the first tie, it's game over because you're not going to Ellen Road needing to get a win with the pressure that would be on them. We've already seen that game will just be fucking. I can imagine us having loads of the ball, not creating anything, and just being so frustrated for 90 minutes. But that first game at Carrow Road is massive, bro. Like, how confident are you now on this Monday going into that?
Yeah, I mean, what was he talking about? He was saying that we were trying to win the game, so we pushed the midfield forward. I'm a little bit like you. I'm a little bit like, okay, why are we so desperate to win that particular game? I get we're going into the playoffs, but don't. I mean, the midfield. I don't know about you, but post national break, the midfield's just been. I think it's been completely absent, to be honest. But if it's me, I'm going to Norwich very conservative. I'm looking to keep clean sheets. You know, clean sheets win you games. I know it sounds really simple, but I would really quite simply go there to get maybe like a 0-0, a scrappy 1-0, frustrate the Norwich crowd, come back to Ellen Road and do something there. Yeah. That's what I think he's got to set up. He's got to set up a little bit because I think, Joe, I've loved us this season. I think Borough was the classic example, even though at the back we weren't watertight, but I thought a lot of those goals were anomalies, really. But I loved how counter-attacking we were there. You have the ball, you control it, but we're going to burn you on the counter-attack. And that, I think, is where Leeds are at their most dangerous. So let Norwich have the ball and we'll burn you. I think my issue is, mate, that midfield. I mean, you got McLean in there, Sarah, obviously Sargent up front, who's having a good season, Johnny Rowe, who's having a quality season. I'll be looking at him next year, by the way, whatever happens. But they've got a lot of players in there who can hurt us, and I think they're probably. I know they lost at the weekend, but out of the four, they're the form.
Yeah, I would argue that, mate, as well. West Brom had a fall off. I know they won against Preston, but Preston have been shit for weeks, if I'm honest. I do think out of the lot of us, like you mentioned, they're arguably the most informed.
I'd take a draw now.
Yeah, going to Ellen Road needing a win, or yeah.
I'd definitely take a draw now, but we need to stop the rot, Joe. We need we need a clean sheet. We need a nice tight 1-0 winner. We need something like that, man. I think we've beaten them twice. That's got to be a confidence builder for the lads. How many years is it now, Joe? We've won down at Carrow Road. It feels like we've run down at Carrow Road like the last 3 times on the bounce. It feels like it's 3-2 every single time, doesn't it? But I think we've still got a chance of doing something. I know you're sort of resigned, but I think the players in there have the quality to do something. But listen, mate, a lot of it's on Farke this week. He's got to get him back. He's got to get him back to it. And I think I agree with you. Imagine that's what frustration was with the last game. Give Joseph a start, and then he can go in. He can grab. I think I mentioned it on the preview. Grab a couple of goals, go into the playoffs confident. Firing, fit, hungry, tenacious. Get him on. But now it feels once again that it's going to be Perot again. The frustrating thing is, Joe, you know what's going to happen, don't you, mate? It's going to get to the 65th minute and he'll change him. He'll put Joseph on for 25 minutes. And I'm like, if you know that change is coming, just play him from the start. If you know it's coming and you know Perot's going to maybe, stink out the gaff again for a little bit, just start Joseph. Why not? But he's not going to do it, is he? But for me, mate, I'm going to go with a Carrow Road, a 1-1.
Yeah.
What about you? What are you thinking?
I genuinely don't know. I don't know. I'd take a point like you, mate, if I'm honest. But like you said, we've beaten them twice. Look, if we get through to Wembley, I think with such a big pitch, I fancy us. But again, it's who we play. If we play Southampton, I'd shit myself. I do agree with you in terms of, if you look at how we played Norwich at Ellen Road as well, we came out the second half, everyone was losing their heads because Norwich were well on top, but they had 3 touches in our box. We had them under complete control, so I think there is a case of doing that at Carrow Road, maybe sitting off and saying, right, come and we'll get you on the count. I think that's a great shout. I don't know. I genuinely don't know how it's going to go. Like, I wasn't even confident for Southampton until the morning of the game, and I feel like I'm like that at the minute. You know, it could
be. But at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of people say 3-1, 3-0. And do you know what, Joe? It feels almost like, like Leeds of old in the Championship, where you go down to Carrow Road and sort of expect a loss. It does feel at the minute, with where we're at in terms of the squad. I do agree with what people are saying in terms of, I could also see, and you're probably thinking the same, Joe, like head wise with this squad at the minute, and they've not given you enough really form wise. But I could definitely see like a 2-0 Norwich win as well, which it is an issue really down there, and then coming back to Ellen Road at the minute. So
it's just everything sort of this season that we felt we'd got over, winning in London, all these sort of things, not getting, and then it's like everything has come to roost in the last few weeks. Everything we were used to of Leeds United in the Championship in the last few weeks has just come to roost. But they can't lose, and I'll say, if they lose, then it's game over, folks. And I will say that, even if, because I just think mentality-wise, they've shown us this. And listen, I hope they prove me wrong. But then if we go into Ellen Road on a Thursday night, under the lights, crowd dying for a win.
Oh, God.
I just don't. It almost feels like the shirts become heavier as the season's gone on, and we know, But if we win, if we win away, although that means shit, because we won away against Derby and still managed to drop the ball. So my answer to your question is, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't even want to put a prediction on, because
it's hard, isn't it? Because like mentality-wise, you look at the team and it's like, it's at the minute, it's probably bottom of the Championship, nigh on the bottom. But then you look at the quality of the squad in general on paper, and it's probably the best side in the Championship if we've been in the playoffs, I should say, to be honest. So it's really difficult to get your head round, isn't it?
It is, mate. It definitely is. Someone sent me that clip, but I feel like we've sort of missed the boat now. We've moved on. Is there anything else you want to chat about before we exit, Connor?
Just that, obviously, like what we're going to be doing with this show, I guess, Joe. It's probably a good thing to speak to people about what you were going to be doing the Counterpoint every week on Joe's channel, and then it'll be on my channel, back on Joe's channel, and we're going to keep it going. So it's going to become a series, which is series which is really nice. Me and Joe getting back together, and then hopefully it's going to turn into more of an in-person thing, mate, and we can do more things in and around it. But yeah, that's going to be it, everybody. So you're going to expect this. It's nice actually doing it midday and not doing everything at 8, 9, 10 p.m. in it. But yeah,
it is, mate. It is, and I think 12 o'clock on a Monday is the perfect slot, and it's going to be exciting moving forward, especially as the as opinions change and flitter, and all throughout the season, it's going to be good. And I guess it can keep us both in check in a sense as well. When one's up here and one's down there, let's just level it out and bring it in.
I think the good thing with me and you is as well. Like, I think that a lot of people say this as well. When we talk to each other, I might be a bit like, and you might be a bit like, we're the best team in the world. But when we talk to each other, I do feel like we sort of level each other out a little bit as well. And that's why it's called Counterpoint a lot of the time as well. It's not just because we're going to sit here arguing because we're mates, but we do have difference of opinion, and I think it's of us both to talk each other down and put the points across. But it's nice to just chat Leeds with a lot of you in here as well. I think I see a lot of familiar names. I see a lot of names that I don't know as well. So it's nice to see you guys engaging as well.
Sharpie's put it. That's a perfect point. Yin and yang.
Yeah,
we should have called it yin and yang, not
we should.
I like that. But no, next week it'll be on Conor's show. He'll be the one asking the questions and sort of like coming with the narrative, I guess. So let us know in the comments. As I say, like Dale says, apologies for the hate this season, Conor. Tempers fly with the supporting of this club. This is the thing, innit?
You know what, as well? It takes a big man to admit that, Dale, because you get too many faceless accounts never admitting it, mate. So well done to you. Shout out to you.
But opinions, football's massive, innit?
Yeah, get Becchio's bulge on next time.
Yeah, get him on, the little shit stirrer. I love that. Listen, go check out One Leeds. I know you're all already subscribed. There's over 1,000 in the chat as well and has been, which is great, from Monday at 12 p.m. His channel is in the description. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, comments, notification bell, all that jazz, and we'll see you again soon. Peace out, folks. Enjoy the rest of your